Wine tapped her pen aggressively against the cafeteria table, her eyes burning holes into the back of Jungkook's head. The school's badboy, the devil himself, the one guy no one dared to mess with unless they had a death wish. He was the kind of guy who would make people part, like the Red Sea, with just a glance. And for some absurd reason, he had decided not to confess his love to her. Or did she knew he loved her? Oh, please, it was obvious. The lingering stares, the way he always appeared out of nowhere when she was trouble, and, most importantly, he had almost broken someone's ribs last month for accidentally making her trip. The signs were all there. Yet here she was, still waiting for him to make a move. Fine, I am done, she muttered, dropping her pen with a thud. Her cousin, Kenny, who had been innocently sipping his juice, glanced at her wearily. Kenny, with wine, this ridiculous dish situation. I've waited long enough. I'm not a patient woman. Kenny, you waited 2 months. Wine, exactly, like a lifetime in girl time. Kenny sighed, already regretting agreeing to eat lunch with her today. Kenny, okay, so what are you planning? A slow, evil grin spread across Wine's face. Wine, I'm going to make him jealous. Since he refuses to make a move, I will force him to. Kenny, and how do you plan to do that? He casually shoved a piece of sandwich in his mouth, half interested in that loving dating conversation, and all he wanted was to go home and play his video games. Why? By making him think I'm interested in someone else. She leaned forward, eyes gleaming. Kenny. Who? Why? You. Silence. Then Kenny. Oh, hell no. I'm not getting murdered today. Now he was clearly focused on the conversation, wanting to run away more than ever. Wine, don't be dramatic. Kenny, I'm not being dramatic. I need my life. Wine held his arm looking at him with all the galaxies sparkling in her eyes. She was already on her move. The poor guy panicked, sweat already forming on his forehead. He was going to die today. He was going to die. He gulped and smiled at her, and she had the audacity to giggle in such a girly manner that would make any man weaken their knees. But all Kenny saw was death. And after that, hell. Wine. Feed me a bite? Kenny. What if he's not watching? He prayed internally for it to be true. Wine. Doesn't matter, he'll spawn. She glared at him, then instantly giggled again, taking a bite from the man, hanging by the thread in between life and death. Then it went down. She suddenly gasped, staring at something behind her. Kenny immediately turned, and there he was. Jungkook leaning against the doorframe like he had all the time in the world. Black hoodie over his head, one hand in his pocket. Jaw clenched just enough to make it clear he was pissed. His dark eyes were locked directly onto them, and Wine had the fight, the very urge to shiver. She had seen Jungkook mad before, but this was something else. Jungkook had no idea who the guy was. He didn't care. All he knew was that Wine was his, and some pathetic excuse of a man was sitting in his spot. So naturally, he walked over. People scattered. He didn't even need to say anything. The moment they saw his expressions, they got out of the way like their lives depend on it. By the time he reached their table, both of them had stopped talking. Wine. Oh, hi, Jungkook. Did you need something? He stared at her. Then slowly, his gaze moved to Kenny, who, in his defense, was ready to flee the planet. Zeke, leave. Kenny, gladly. He shot up, but Wine held his arm, pulling him back down. Jungkook's jaw ticked, seeing her hand over his arm. It was one interesting expression for Wine. Wine. So, what brings you here? She batted her eyelashes teasingly. Jungkook could bet his whole life that she was doing this on purpose. He grabbed Kenny's arm, freed him from her grip. Then he grabbed Wine's jaw and kissed her. The public had gone wild. It was not enough for him. Then, before she knew she could even process what was happening, Jungkook moved. 1 second he was standing over her. The next, he had grabbed her wrist, pulled her up, and crashed his lips onto hers. Body against him, his arm around her waist. A collective gasp filled the cafeteria. Someone dropped their tray. Someone screamed. Kenny choked on air. But Ryan, she didn't care. That's what she waited for because holy hell, Jungkook wasn't kissing her like some shy, nervous high schooler. He was kissing her like he had waited years for this moment, like he was starving for her. His hand gripped her waist, pulling her close, making sure there was no space between them. His other hand tangled in her hair, angling her head the way he wanted. And when she gasped softly against his lips, he took full advantage, deepening the kiss, owning her completely. He was overwhelming everywhere, hot, commanding, completely consuming her. This wasn't just a kiss, it was a claim, and everyone knew it. Somewhere in the background, someone whispered, I think I just got pregnant watching that. Shut up! It wasn't until she felt her lungs burn that he finally pulled back, breathing hard, forehead against her. It's okay. Don't ever pull that stunt again. I'm going to murder someone. Wine blinked up at him, dazed, completely lost in the intensity of his gaze, and then, just to be a menace, she smirked. Wine, tell us. His grip on her waist tightened. Her breath hissed, and just when she thought he might actually kill her, he kissed her again. This time even harder, making almost every person present there faint from such intensity.